What would it be like to view the world through the eyes of an addict, living a double life, and caught in a cycle of crime? And how can that cycle be broken? Listen to Rickey Brown's remarkable story to find out. First, a few previews.
What I do now is I took the thing that was killing me and I now use it to save lives. So whenever I see anything, I always see it as a kid born at the edge of a cotton field on a plantation in Mississippi.
Literally a plantation.
Literally a plantation. I lived with my grandfather. He was a raging alcoholic, and that was the first guy that ever gave me a drink at 5 years old. So at 21, David, I started the escalation of my disease of addiction. I got involved with cocaine, and that cocaine sped up the downward spiral to depths that I can't even really put to words because I don't have a vocabulary that could encapsulate it in the deepest, darkest way that I would like to share it. But I had to surrender, David. I had to say, listen, God, I tried it my way. I did everything I could and it don't work. I had to come to the end of me. I had to come to the end of me before I could take the next step. You know, when people tell you they're proud of you, that's one thing. My dad's wife told me, Rick, I've never seen anybody change the way you change. That means a lot coming from her because she don't give out platitudes. But then she made me the executor of her will, and her son is in the house. Her actual son is in the house.
She trusts you.
She trusts me.
This is Justice Voices. This episode is brought to you with support from a Healing Illinois grant, administered by the Field Foundation of Illinois and United Way of Central Illinois. Mr. Brown, welcome to our program.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, Mr. Joyner, and thank you, David. I'm glad you both thought my story was worth telling.
Your story is one that needs to be told, and your voice is one that needs to be heard. For those who haven't joined us, I'm David Risley.
And I'm Leonard Joyner.
And for those who are interested in how Mr. Joyner and I became acquainted, you can go to episode 1 and 2 of Justice Voices. Now, Mr. Brown, the reason we're really interested in your story is because you can provide an insider view into this cycle that so many people get trapped in, which is crime, prison, or jail. In your case, crime, jail, and how addiction is the driving force in that cycle. But you broke free. And we want to know how you got into that cycle, what it's like being in that cycle, how you broke free. But now you're doing some wonderful things. So just briefly, we'll get back to this later, but just briefly, what are you doing now? That's the most important thing.
Well, thank you for asking. What I do now is I took the thing that was killing me and I now use it to save lives. So I was in that cycle you talked about where addiction was driving me to these crimes and, incarceration, whether it was just jail or not. But today I'm a community outreach worker and I go to people where they're at. I meet them in their place of struggle, whether that's at the mission, on the street, outside the library, wherever they're at. I go there and I meet with them and I build these unique relationships that cannot be fostered overnight. And I take my time and I establish with them through my own lived expertise what it takes to change your life. Today, I live in a on the west side of town. For those of you who don't know, that's the more expensive side of town. For Springfield, Illinois, it's the west side of Springfield is the expensive side of town. But I also have a new vehicle and, a wife and a life today that was simply not possible as it stood for me over 11 years ago. So I've been sober for 11 years. My sobriety date is January 18th, 2013.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank
Proud
you.
of you.
Thank you. And for a long time, I wasn't sure how all the pain and struggle and hurt that I was going through was ever going to be beneficial to me. But through the 12-step programs, in my case in particular, it was Alcoholics Anonymous. What I was able to do is just simply learn how to take the perspective of what had occurred and use it to empower me. For a long time, I couldn't admit that I had a problem because of ego and pride or whatever. And once I admitted that I had a problem, that act of taking that proverbial first step occurred. That first step of that journey of 1,000 miles, it occurred in that moment when I admitted that, oh my God, I do have a problem, and it's killing me. I would be remiss to try to tell my story without saying what actually happened in the very beginning. So I'm a country boy. And so my life, I see it through the lens of a person who was born in the South, in the Delta of Mississippi.
Okay, now that is an interesting story in itself. Would you tell us that story of your childhood?
Sure. I'll gladly tell it. So we all have these ethnocentrisms. So I look at the world from behind my eyes. So whenever I see anything, I always see it as a kid born at the edge of a cotton field on a plantation in Mississippi.
Literally a plantation.
Literally a plantation. It was called Green Estate Plantation. I lived in a place called Clarksdale, Mississippi. For those of you who don't know about it, you should really take the time to research what that small town has produced. Rappers like Rick Ross and Nate Dogg and Son House and John Lee Hooker, Muddy Waters, Sam Cooke is from my hometown. I mean, just rich with history. And I was telling David that the deeper the pain, the greater the artistry that comes from an area like that. And so being born at the edge of a cotton field on a plantation, I had the misfortune of my mother passing away when I was 4 years old. And we ended up living with my grandfather, who was born in 1898. His father was a slave. And my grandfather was an illiterate man, but he was the smartest man I'd ever met in my life. He had somehow, in his life doings, had shot off 2 toes on one foot and 3 on the other one. He had digits missing on his finger, but he could build anything and he could do anything, and he had been everywhere. He was what people called a hobo on the train. He would do the work of the day wherever he was. If it was Georgia, he picked peaches. If it was Mississippi, he chopped cotton. If it was, some other place, he would do whatever the work of the day was. And he was also a prize fighter. So him being born in that time period. Now, think about it this. Here's a man who rode the train, and if you would sell him food, he would have to go to the back door to get it. But he could buy grits, eggs, sausage, a cup of coffee, and for a nickel, and have 2-cent change. This was a time that he grew up in. So if he had $5, he had over a month's wages. And so he could take the $5 and bet everybody in the crowd a nickel, And he said, Rick, sometimes I left with the money. Other times I just left with a whooping. But he enjoyed his life, and he died at 90 years old. And to give you an idea of what kind of man he was, at 90 years old, he was 5'10", and he weighed 210 pounds, bent over as a 90-year-old man would be. He didn't stand upright anymore, but still he was 5'10", 210 pounds. He was a giant of a man for the time. So after my mom's passing, we moved in with him. He left my brother and I. My mom had 3 kids. It was myself. I was 4 years old. I had my older brother Norris, who was 6 years old, and my infant brother Henry, who was a 9-month-old. And mysteriously, he died in a foot of water at the age of 15, and his death to this day is still a mystery. My brother Norris and I hand dug his burial site, and we did not have a casket to put him in, so he was buried in a box in a bag, and my brother and I dug that grave ourselves behind the church and covered him. And I remember very distinctly, it started raining. We were almost done. My brother Norris wanted to quit, and I told him, I said, if you quit, I'm going to put you in there with him. And so we finished covering him. It was and I remember that to this day. But, you know, life was just beginning in that moment for me. After my grandfather left us, we moved in with my grandmother, my father's mother. Now, she was 72 years old. She was a lady who was born in 1906. She had a 10th grade education, which is basically a master's degree. She taught me everything from how to walk, how to talk, the Lord's Prayer, 23rd Psalms. She taught me every manner that you see. The individual that you're looking at right now was produced by her. Without her, there's no me. She showed me how to live. She gave me my moral compass, because before her, there was none. I lived with my grandfather. He was a raging alcoholic, and that was the first guy that ever gave me a drink at 5 years old. I was hungry.
5 years old.
5 years old. I was hungry, and he didn't have nothing but alcohol, and he gave it to me. Well, of course, at 5 years old, a couple of sips, and you're dizzy, and you go to sleep. You're not asking for food anymore. I can remember going to elementary school, 4th grade, with a hangover. And it just got worse. I smoked my first joint when I was 12 years old. I was with some friends. Miss Lula Jones had 7 boys. They were all range of ages. And one of the older boys gave us some marijuana. And so I had my first drink at 5 years of age, and I smoked my first joint at 12 years old. I did my first hit of cocaine at 21 years old.
Yeah, Rick, I know what you're talking about. I grew up right down the road from you on Highway 61 in Cleveland, which is about 35 miles from
Absolutely.
you. And I remember me going to the field as a little boy.
Yes.
There was no certain age. Whenever your parents felt that
You could handle it.
you could
went.
help and you could handle it, they took you to the field.
Absolutely.
And there was it was just the way. It was 18 of us.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember my daddy telling us, boy, one thing about here, you're going to learn and go to school and you're going to work. Yeah. Whatever it take, feed the hog, the chicken. I don't know that y'all have hog and chicken and stuff in the yard. Right. But what I like about your story, I want you to go ahead and tell it, is that how you started at a young age with the alcohol. Because my dad, and I got brothers that started at an early age. We used to watch my dad drink himself drunk. Then he would drink himself sober. Yeah. You ever heard of that?
Yes, I have. And my grandfather did everything. He would say, make me some coffee and pour a shot in there. And then he would say, taste it. Make sure it tastes right. And so he would make what they call Irish coffee. I don't know if, and he would make coffee and pour a shot of alcohol in it in the morning time. My grandfather drank non-stop. It wasn't. It was like chew or bubble gum or anything that you did constantly. He drank constantly, so he would never get. Now there were times where he would get absolutely drunk and pass out, and and just be a complete mess. But they call my grandfather Bozo because when he would get drunk, he'd get happy, dance around, and of course we know who Bozo is, Bozo the clown. But my grandfather was a really uplifting man. Like he could pray the Dr. Watts prayer. You'll have to figure out what that means. But he was a powerful individual. And he was an individual who didn't have the book learning, but had every other skill. So on the plantation, there are certain people, and I don't want to be rude in this, but the white man owns the plantation, and the black people work on it. And so we would always refer to the white man as the white man. And so the white man would tell you what to do, and there were certain people he would have as straw bosses. He didn't talk to everybody on the plantation. He would only talk to certain people. And so my grandfather was one of the men that he would use to get things done. So my grandfather would, and he really wasn't my grandfather, but he was a man that was dating my mom's mom. And when he left on the train, he convinced my mom at 13 years of age to get on the train with him. That's how he became my grandfather. But he would haul cotton choppers. So in order to be on the road in the morning at 6 a.m., you had to get up at 3:30 a.m. And I told David this story. You would have to get up at 3:30 a.m. You would have to load the hose, sharpen them, ice the water down and get the truck ready. And then go around the plantation to different people's houses and pick up the people that you were going to charge $2 a day to ride your truck to chop. I lived with my grandfather. I made $5 a day. That's 50 cents an hour, 12-hour days. He charged me $2 a day at 5 years of age to ride the truck. And he made me work on the truck. Today, David, do you know what time I got up this morning?
Well, you told me what time you get up.
I got up at 3:30 this morning, and that's every morning.
Backing up just a little bit, I hear you talk about you used to go to the field and stuff like that and all these things. I can remember when I was a little boy as well, we went to the field. All the things you talking about doing, I went through that. My father was the HNC, if you know what I mean by
Yes.
HNC. For the people that don't know, with all due respect, it mean the head nigga in charge.
Right.
My dad was the straw ball for the white man. He was sent through my dad. And my dad would haul us to the field and stuff. We paid that $2. That would be the head charge for picking you up, taking you to the field.
Yeah.
But also we had to borrow $1 for lunch, to buy
Yes.
our lunch.
Yes.
So at the end of the day, we only had $2 for that whole day.
12-hour day.
Yes.
For a
but you only
12-hour
had
day.
$2 at the end of the day.
Yeah, because he would pay you at noon for lunch.
Yes.
And it was his store. So he'd pay you on one side of the store. You would walk through the line and buy the food that you're going to eat with the $1 he gave you in his store.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the day, you would get $2.
Yeah.
And it was a self-contained unit. And so I decided at 12 years old that I was going to leave. I saw a commercial on TV. It says, "Be all that you can be in the Army." And it clicked. I said, that's it. That's how I'm getting out of here. It was a man walking through the jungle in a stream, and he had his gun up at the ready fire position, and it just looked like something that I would love to do. And man, it took me 3 attempts at passing that ASVAB, but I got it on the last day.
And that's a qualification.
Yes. I took it 2 times, failed by the slimmest of margins. And then the last time we had a chance to take it, they were bringing it to the school and kids were cutting up because most of them was just trying to get out of class. And they were just, completely disruptive the whole time. And I had to focus through all of the rip roaring and the childish behavior and the noise, and I finally got it. And it was a rite of passage for me, and I ended up passing it in the 11th grade, and I did 1 year of what they call delayed entry program. So at the end of my junior year of high school, I had signed up for the U.S. Army, and that was December 20th, 1984. And I didn't go to basic training until July the 29th, 1985. And so when I arrived at basic training, I had 1 year of time and grade as an E1. And going to the Army ended up being the greatest decision I ever made in my life. Because as I sit here now, I'm a 90% service-connected disabled veteran. I've had 2 claims settled. My life is in great order at this moment. I get a full retirement of 90% from the VA, and I'm able to work full-time, and I'm able to work in a field and at a thing that once was going to be the death of me that I now use to save lives. So at 21, David, I started the escalation of my disease of addiction. I got involved with cocaine, and that cocaine sped up the downward spiral to depths that I can't even really put to words because I don't have a vocabulary that could encapsulate it in the deepest, darkest way that I would like to share it. So I'll say it like this.
Yeah, I would really be interested in having you relate to the people who are listening or watching what you are sharing with me about what that's like, how it affects your thought processes. Now, up to this time, it's been alcohol.
Yeah.
And now it's cocaine.
It's the mix. If I drink 1 beer, I have to have the cocaine. It's like biscuits and gravy. They go together for the addict. One comes with the other one. They go together. And so the alcohol begets the cocaine begets the alcohol. Because one dries your mouth out, the other one wets your mouth for the other. So what happened to me was when I started using cocaine, there is such a euphoric. The first time I ever did cocaine, I think I felt like I levitated. It was a euphoric high that cannot be described. I felt an energy and an excitement and I hate to use a spiritual term, but I felt glorified. It's like I could understand everything and I could feel everything and I could observe everything. I could hear people talking and feel myself. And it was an outer body experience. And it's so captivating, that feeling, until you want it again. And you want it again in the worst way. So that means if you got any money, you just spend it till it's all gone. And then you start to look around the room. You start to look around your closet. If you got anything, I've seen people in the dope house sell their shoes, take them off their feet, and walk down the street in the snow with no shoes on. I would try to buy when an addict is in full activation, everything has a dollar sign on it. when I look at your shoes, I think, wow, them are nice. I could probably get a 20 for that. I wonder what I could get for those shoestrings, that watch. Wow, that's a nice watch. I wonder what I could get for that. I wonder what they'll give me for that. And so everything had a price tag on it. Nothing was safe. Larceny was the least of your problems. You wanted the drug, you wanted the high, and you cannot. So it's the thing you think about from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep. And because you're using, you don't usually sleep. And you don't sleep very well if you do. It's just like you pass out, you fatigue to the point where you have to stop moving. But as soon as you awake again, the chase begins. And down south, we call it chasing Jason, right? You're chasing Jason, not Jason's chasing you. Jason Voorhees isn't chasing you. You're chasing Jason. Jason, the thing that's going to kill you, you're after it. You're running behind it, trying to catch it. And so,
let me ask this. Did this euphoria that you experienced the first time, was it always that way?
no.
Explain that, because I think that's important for people who may be thinking, "Oh,
That was great.
I'm down so low right
Yeah.
now. I could use some of that."
Right.
And what you've described is such an intensely euphoric experience that you craved it after that,
Right.
over and over and over again. Now, some people talk about the difference between physical addiction and psychological addiction. Whatever there was this intense release of dopamine.
Yes.
It's a dopamine dependency. This
Absolutely.
feeling of well-being and all, but it wears off.
It does.
It wears you down is really a better way of saying.
It does. So, of course, the cocaine is dehydrating you, but the high only lasts for such a short period of time. I think that's what creates such a powerful dependence. I mean, if you could get high and it'll last all day, it probably wouldn't be as detrimental of a drug, because it wouldn't take as much to sustain you or to maintain your level. But the high only lasts for minutes. And because it was so intense, you try to go back and get it again. Well, once you've gotten that first high, you don't ever repeat that one again. Now, if you didn't get high for a day and went and got high again, it would be close to that, but it wouldn't be the same. So each time you get high for the first time, it's kind of, intense like that. But really, it was the thing that created. It was like it released something inside me. And see, I played football and I played sports, and I was in the Army, and I had a very physical job in the Army. And the one thing I forgot to tell you that really accentuates the cocaine is, as soon as I hit it, I don't feel no pain anymore. So at 48 years old, I had a hip replacement. I need one on the other side now. But as soon as you hit the cocaine, your feet stop hurting, your hips, back, knee, whatever pain you was feeling, it's gone. And there's nothing like a pain-free feeling. I don't know what people who don't have arthritis, I don't know what that feels like. I can't imagine it, because I had it even as a child. I had knee aches as a child because I was growing. My knees was hurting. But as I got older, it just kept growing, the arthritis. So not only was I physically high, not only was I psychologically high, the dopamine hit, but it also cured the pain. And so there was every reason under the sun to do it. But what I come to find out was the thing that I loved was killing me. And because I was married with wasn't married, and I had no kids, I felt justified that I could do it and no one was being harmed. But today I understand very clearly that people love me And I was created for success in the image and likeness, and none of those things are the benefit of me. What I couldn't get over was how I was going to supply myself. And so I was born in Mississippi, raised. I'm an honest man. I don't believe in stealing, but the drug, it disavowed that. That moral stance that I had, do right, treat people the way you want to be treated, be fair, be honest. That's how I was raised. As soon as the drug took hold, now the first day I did it, I didn't become dishonest. But over time, I lost that. I lost that innocence about fair play and treating people the way you want to be treated, because there was something on my shoulder demanding that I forget about that and go for what I needed to feel good.
You know what this makes me think? You've described how your grandfather was a slave.
Yes, I became one. But at the time, it's the slow boil on the frog. You don't feel it. It's like somebody put you in some warm water and gradually turn the heat up. And before you know it, you're the frog boiling in the pot. But it didn't seem like you were boiling. You just slowly, gradually became a bond servant, an indentured person to this disease.
And you give up what you're describing, it sounds to me, you give up your free will. You said, you're an honest man.
Yeah.
You don't steal.
Oh.
That was part of who you were.
Yeah.
But because of the addiction,
Yes.
this intense, overpowering craving, you became a thief.
David, you cannot imagine what it's like to be raised honest and have the choice in front of you. Should I take that? Should I leave it? Oh, God, I can't take that. Grandma's going to be mad at me. Grandma's dead. Don't worry about that. But I'll see her when I die, and she'll be mad at me for stealing that. Oh, don't worry about that, Rick. You can get $500 for that. And so that's the conversation.
You're right. I can't imagine it. I've heard people describe it. I've heard it described, it was actually a researcher who himself had not used cocaine, but he researched people who did. And he said, it was reported, people said that first use, they said, even if you never use it again, you will never in your whole life ever forget.
Nope, that synapse is burned. That neural pathway is burned in. What really changed my addiction, and I'm kind of skipping ahead a little bit, but what really changed my addiction was when I went back to school and learned more about the brain and the environment. And so the human condition, the human body is the most adaptable thing on this planet. If you stood outside and it's warm outside, hot, and the humidity is hot, you could stand in place and not move and begin to sweat because your body wants to protect you. So it'll start to perspire. So when the wind hits it, it'll cool you down. In the wintertime, you stood outside. If you stood in the cold long enough, your body will start to vibrate on its own to create inertia and vibrate and try to create energy so that you can warm up. So you don't have to have permission to feel a certain way. Your body is designed to do it. One thing I learned about my youth that really was an illuminating fact was the idea that if I drank one beer, took one shot, smoked one joint on Monday, and did that Monday and Tuesday, by Friday I would need 2 beers, 2 shots, and a couple of joints because my body and brain would have normalized that one beer, one shot, and then was said, okay, that's normal. So that doesn't get you where you want to be anymore, and you'll have to up the ante. And it's the same way with the cocaine. You have to up the ante. And I think that is what created the larceny and the cycle, because you have to keep upping the ante. You know, if $20 would get you there, you wouldn't have to rob too many people to get $20, you know, or steal too much to get $20. But when your disease is calling you and demanding you to feed it, then you have to do something. And for me, I became, you know, I lived in a house without lights. And then eventually I became a homeless person. I remember being, and this is when the rubber meets the road for me, David and Leonard. I can remember they've torn the houses down now, but there were some houses on 8th Street down from Fast Track Laundromat. And there was a combination lock on the door. And the person who was selling the house lived in California and said, call this number if you would like to see the house. So I called the number, said, hey, I'd like to see the house. She gave me the combination, so I got in. And now I had a place to stay. But then it had no amenities, and I was freezing cold. And at a point, I got to the point where I wanted my life to change. And I just had a conversation like we're having right now with my higher power. I said, God, please don't let me die. And this was my plea to him. And I said it to him just like this. I said, God, please don't let me die and never having fully tried. I don't want to leave this earth and never gave my best. I wanted to see what it would look like if I just got in my stance, you know, a good athletic stance, and gave my 100% dead level best. I hadn't done that yet. I hadn't did it. And every time I've ever gave all I had, I was really successful. You know, I would do very well in anything that I tried my best at. And I said to the Lord, I said, please help me do my best before I die. I just want to do my best one time. Show me what that looks like.
Now, at this point in time, you had said you had been in the military.
Yes.
How long did that last?
I was in the military 3 years active duty and 7 years as a reservist, so 10 years altogether. I was an interstate transfer from Clarksdale, Mississippi. I was in the 644th PSC out of here at Camp Lincoln.
In Springfield.
Yes.
Now, during this time, you're still addicted?
Yes.
Alcohol? Cocaine?
Oh, alcohol, cocaine. I was fully addicted. I was actively addicted. I would go to drills, and on the weekend, we'd be sitting in class or something, and I'd just head bob, and I couldn't hold my head up because I'd been up all night. It was the weekend. That was my time to shine, you know. But I've always worked. You know, that work ethic never went away. I'd have a job, David. I mean, you let me show up, I'd work. I'd come to work every day because I wanted to get high.
You had a job over in Lincoln at this factory, right?
Yes, I worked with Leonard's brother,
Eugene.
We used to ride together. I worked at Lincoln at the bottle factory. It was one of the best jobs I'd ever had. They started me off with $13.50 an hour. And shift difference. It was a good job.
Now, at some point, all of this brought you into contact with the justice system.
Yes. So my biggest thing was, David, and this has all been resolved. So if it sounds like I'm spilling the tea here, it's all been worked out. I've paid the requisite cost on this. So my favorite thing was I was always a car guy. I have a unique skill set. I'm a talker. You know, I build relationships. So I had sold cars, and I tell you, if for a person that's an addict, if you can sell, you can make money, and you can make it every day. And that's who I was. So when that business kind of went away because of whatever, a number of different things, I got with a guy, and and we were in the junk buying business. At this time, this was the first time gas went up to like $4.25. So when gas goes up high like that, raw material costs go up. So tin at that time was like 150 or 180 a ton, which is a lot because a car will weigh 2,800 pounds, and and so you can make money and you could break that car down. If it's got aluminum wheels, you can get $15 a wheel. The battery is worth $10. You cut the converter off, it's probably worth $100 to $120 plus the cost of the car. And if the tires are good, you got somebody to buy the tires, you can really make money. So we would go around and buy junk cars.
So you're no longer thinking about shoes and shoelaces.
No, I'm looking at cars. Every car that doesn't run, that's got air missing in the tire, that's got weeds growing up around it, I see them as $500 bills. The range has extended now.
So as the addiction progresses, the criminality progresses.
Absolutely, without question. So if I'm walking down an alley and I see a car in the back of a house that's apparently nobody cares about, I would look at that car for a week. If it didn't move and nobody act like they knew about it, I'd call a tow truck and say, "That's my car, get it." Drag it up across the scale and sell it.
Drag it across the scale at the junkyard.
At the junkyard. But then they started asking me for titles, so I needed a title.
Oops.
Funny thing, those titles. So we had bought a lot of cars and junk cars and stuff, and my friend had a bunch of titles laying around. So I was selling cars with truck titles and trucks with car titles. The junkyard didn't care. Those things just went underneath. And I'll tell you, David, if for a straight-laced guy like yourself, everything disappears at the junkyard, just so you know. If you want to get rid of something, that's where you get rid of things.
Exactly.
You get rid of things at the junkyard. Inside a secret right there. Yeah, because it gets on the bottom of a load headed to China. We don't care what's in it. And so at some point, the county hired 15 new inspectors because there was an increase of activity of vehicles at the junkyards with no titles, and it didn't matter. And whenever one junkyard would get nervous, I just go to the next one, the next one, and the next one until I wore out all the junkyards around here. And then I had to start taking them to Beardstown, which was a hell of a run, but I happened upon a field of cars. It turned into a mother lode, shall we say? Mm-hmm. Just cars. Some guy had some property and just had a bunch of cars laying out there, and he was gone, and these cars was just up on a hillside, weeds growing up around them. He had forgot about them. They weren't no good. I don't know how I found them, but I found them out there. And so whenever I needed some money, I would just, and then it had gotten so bad till the tow truck drivers were like, "Rick, I'm not coming, because I don't think these cars are yours." I said, "They're mine. And I'm going to pay you $100. Because I had no cost. There was no cost. All I had to do was identify it, find it. And if I could find it, I knew the buyer, and all I needed was, resources to move it. And I was the middleman, taking. And so what happened was, in my desperation, I took a van over on Worth Street from a guy, and it had his spray equipment in there. He was a power washer. He was power washing stuff, and his neighbor saw me take the car, and I took it to Beardstown, and when I was at the hotel, because with this car I paid my hotel rent, and I got some drugs, and I was partying, and next thing I know is somebody's knocking on the door. He said, "Hey, man, you stole my car today. The police is on the way." I didn't open the door. I just kept getting high.
How did he know you were there?
Well, here's what he did. The neighbor saw whose tow truck it was, so he had the name of the tow company. The guy goes up to the tow company, sees this scary kid. The scary kid tells him who I was and where he dropped me off at. So the guy comes and knocks on the door. He says, "You stole my car." And he threatened me. He said, "You better be glad I'm not the way I used to be, because I would shoot through this door right now. But I'm not. So the police is on the way." And the police came, and they arrested me. And that became the nexus which created me deciding that I needed to change.
Was this the first time that you had been arrested?
No, I had been arrested probably 10 or 12 other times. These were all traffic, though, David. Driving on fictitious plates with no insurance, driving with no license, speeding, fictitious place, no insurance.
Had you gone to jail?
Yes, 10, 12 days, because I don't have any money. If I did, I'd get high with it, and I'm not paying you nothing. So the judge understood this. And so if you wanted some retribution on me, you better give me some days, because you ain't getting no money. I'm not gonna show up at the county building with a check or cash and give it to nobody. That goes to the dope man. And so I ended up doing 17 days with that last run, and I got before Judge Gray, and I admitted to Judge Gray that I had did what. There came a time for me to allocute. I think I'm saying that right. I'm not sure. And so I stood up and I said, she read the charges and said, "Is this true?" And I said, "Unequivocally." And she said, "What? What did you say?" And then I froze because I thought I did something wrong. Then the lawyer stood up, who was representing for free. I forget what they call those guys.
Public defender.
Public defender. He said, "Unequivocally, ma'am." She said, "Stand up." She said, "Listen, I see here there's not a whole lot in your jacket." She said, "I'm going to tell you something right now." She said, "I want you to be done with this probation within less than a year, and I don't want to see any more from you ever again." And she said, "By the way, keep using words like that. It's not bad. You should grow and get better. I think you have a lot of potential. I don't ever want to see you again. Do you understand me?" I said, "Yes, ma'am." I've never been in a courtroom since that day. Wow. That was over 12 years ago. And David, that's the magic I want to talk about. In every story, there's a beginning, a middle, and an end. There's what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. What it's like now, I'll tell you, for me, I'm a community outreach specialist. I help people.
Who do you work for?
I work for Family Guidance Center. In fact, I'm wearing the badge now very proudly.
And Family Guidance Center is a local service organization.
Yes, it's a 501(c), and they serve people with addiction. We believe in medication-assisted treatment, Suboxone, methadone, and the like. We have a van that meets people where they're at. So if a person is struggling with opioid addiction, we have a MAR van, medication assisted van, where we can connect them with a doctor and start their treatment process. Now, we don't necessarily treat on the van, but we can set them up with a doctor, get a diagnosis, and start them. They may be able to dose once there, but then get put into the program where they learn to, take their medicine in a regimented way. We believe in medication-assisted treatment. We treat for alcoholism, drug addiction, and gambling. We have 6 locations throughout the state, 2 here in the city of Springfield, 1 on Stanford Street, which is a satellite, and the main office at 120 North 11th Street, the old Triangle Center building, for those who are familiar with the city.
Okay, so one of the things, a question in my mind, I really want to hear, you've talked about how overpoweringly enticing the cocaine was, and cocaine plus alcohol, what that combination was.
Yeah.
And a judge tells you, knock it off, and you knocked it off. No, there's more to this story.
Absolutely. There's more to the story. So, like I said, everything has a beginning, a middle, and an end. There are consequences. And people change for a multitude of reasons. The reason I changed was because of the pain, David. Some people change because they learn more about something and they become inspired, or they have enough resources for them to change. But for me, I changed because of the pain. The consequences became unbearable. I could barely walk. My hip was out. I lived in constant pain, but also I had the weight of my grandmother up here fighting me. She's telling me every day, Rickey, 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 you know better than that. She would speak to me in her own quiet voice all the time. She said, boy, you know better than that. I taught you better than that. You are stronger than that. And so then I had to decide whether I was going to ignore her and go to the bitter end and just say, forget it. Or was I going to make a decision to try and change? And so I made the decision to try and change, unknowing what the results would be, but willing to try. I was willing to try because it hurt so damn bad, David. It just hurt. It just hurt. Everything hurt. The hips, the mind, the body, the soul. I had soul sickness and sadness. I was depressed. I felt alone. I felt self-pity. I felt every kind of anguish a person could feel, but I knew that this was not the plan for me. I felt like I was living someone else's life. I was like, come on, God. I'm better than this. And I asked my mom, who had been dead for years. And to this day, I have no pictures of her. I don't know how she looks, but I know she's up there working. And she just asked God to give me another chance. And she got that done for me. And when God gave me a chance, I made him a promise. I said, listen, God, if you help me and give me one chance, I won't let you down. But this time, I won't let myself down. And so I went back to the car lot. I was at a car lot called Patriot Auto Sales. But I'm a stalwart, David. If people come near me and they got money, I have all the motivations to not let you leave. Not only am I going to put you in a car, but I need that fee. And so I could feed my addiction. But I was there and I looked up VA helpline, and I called the number, and it was to a lady in Rochester, New York. She was working the hotline, and I closed my eyes and I told her the 5-minute version of my story. She said, oh my God, Rickey, I gotta help you. And she said, can you wait right there? Are you safe? I said, yes, I'm safe. She said, can you wait 20 minutes and call me back? And so I waited 20 minutes and I called her back. I said, how do I make sure I get you? She said, well, here's my direct line number. So she gave me her direct line number. And so she, in the 20-minute interim, she called to Danville, Illinois, and she asked the lady over there, can they help me? Because she had to find somebody in the state.
The Danville VA Hospital.
VA Hospital. Because her question to me was, do you want to stay where you're at or do you want to move? I said, I'll do either one, but my father's here and I would like to stay here. I said, this is where I'm going to have to live, so I want to get sober here. She said, okay, just stay where you're at. I'm going to have somebody reach out to you, but I want you to call me back on my direct line. And this is God. Because I had asked God for this. God was coming through right away.
And he sent an angel.
He sent me an angel, David. She answered the phone and said, wait a minute. So in 20 minutes, I called back just like a good soldier would. I called back exactly. I'm looking at the clock. Bam, 20 minutes call. She says, okay, Rick, call this number. I called that number. It was a lady in Danville. She asked me the same question. She said, do you want to stay there or move? I said, well, I'd love to stay here. She said, I think I got something for you over there in Springfield. And I had heard about maybe 15 years prior that they were going to build a VA house. They were going to build a sober home for veterans only in Springfield. Well, they had completed it. It's a $2.4 million property sitting on the corner of Scarrett and I forget what the name of the other street is right there. But it's 209 West Scarrett. And it was for veterans only. It's a 16-bed facility. I called that lady. She said, hey, can you call this number? The social worker name was Stan. And I called him that Monday. He said that I will set up an appointment for you Wednesday. I took my bag of clothes over there. He had to make sure there wasn't no bugs in it. And he let me move in. And I stayed there for 14 months. I got all of my benefits going. And I got sober. So during the in-processing with the social worker at the VA house, there was a final question. He said, so what do you attribute your constant or chronic homelessness to? And then there was a few options, and one was drugs and alcohol. And David, for the first time to a total stranger, I admitted that I had a drug problem. And in that moment, something really weird occurred at the very instant. My pits began to sweat. My blood pressure went up. I got nervous and happy at the same time. I don't know if you've ever did that before, but I was excited, happy, scared, nervous, pits sweating, just because what he did for me, this thing that was an albatross around my neck, he looked at me with absolute confidence and he smiled and he said, well, it just looks like we got to get you some help. I said, you gonna give me some help? He said, yeah, we're gonna fix it. And it just settled me in a way that I can't describe. First, it excited me and created all these energies, but it settled me. It made me feel like there was an answer. And so when I made that admission, I could tell it was the line of demarcation because I had never done it before. I always, if somebody would say, Rick, you got a problem and you need to get help, I would just throw the ball back in their court. I said, you need to take care of your own business. You know what I mean? Like, I'm fine, worry about yourself. And if I do, it's on me. I'm not bothering you. Take care of your business. You know, stay out of my business. I had a defense, a wall up. But this was the lowering of the wall. This was the opening of my heart. This was the honesty that I had always had inside me, but would never share with anyone. And it just felt like it was going to be okay. And I saw a homeless kid about 2 weeks ago in the parking lot at Sam's, and he was so broken. And I did the same thing for him that guy did for me. I looked at him. I gave him a few bucks, and I said, listen, don't worry. I said, you're in a season right now. You're going to be okay. Everything will work out. I promise you. You have my word. I've been there where you've been. Don't worry. And he went, okay. And I could see him light back up. Because when he was talking to me, his head down, body language bad. He was not excited about life. He was pouring out a sad story to me. But I hit him with the lightning bolt that I've been hit with. And that's what I get to give to people every day, is that bolt of lightning that God gave me. I get to throw it right at him and say, yeah, look at me, you're going to be fine. I did it, you can do it. I'm telling you can. You have my permission to go ahead and live a good life. I'm telling you. And I just pour it into him. And I pump confidence because I know that's all it is. It's a mindset. It's a decision. There is nothing that has to happen in actuality. Just the fact that you got to change that mind. You just got to say to yourself, okay, I'm going to do it.
You know, it brings to mind what I've many times heard. Faith precedes the miracle.
It does. It does. The spiritual confirmation comes before the material. I always wanted a nice house. I got $250,000 house on the west side of town. I drive a 2018 truck that's paid for. My wife's car is paid for. I bought my daughter a car.
That's a blessing.
It's a blessing.
Yes.
I didn't earn it. God gave it to me. But listen, when I was 12 years old, I wanted to go to the Army so I could do all that. But I had to surrender, David. I had to say, listen, God, I tried it my way. I did everything I could and it don't work. I had to come to the end of me. I had to come to the end of me before I could take the next step. In the 12-step programs, they always tell you, and life is like this. It's a paradox. You have to surrender to win. You have to actually say, okay, I'm going to quit fighting. What God asks you to do is stand in the middle of the ring of a fight for your life with your hands down. Don't get mad. Don't block any punches. Don't swing back. Smile. Be thankful and let me fight for you. That's hard for a man.
Yeah, it's hard.
That's hard.
It's hard.
You're getting hit on every side. Things are coming at you. God says, just relax. Just relax. I got it. And when I learned how to say, okay, God, this hurts. I'm going to try to relax. I'm going to let you do it. When I learned how to do that, my faith took off. My growth took off. My ability to be comfortable in my own skin was solidified. Like, I'm okay with me. Hey, I'm a little hefty. It's okay. I'm loved by the one true King. I'm a child. He is my father. And it's okay today. I'm going to work on everything that he gives me to work on, and I'm going to be grateful about it all. You know, I wake up every day with a passion for life now. I'm not sad. I used to really hate holidays, man. My mom's dead. I didn't meet my dad till I was, 9, 10 years old. I felt sorry for myself in 9 ways. You know what I mean? Just sad, sorry, sick. Today, I'm excited. I'm grateful for it all. I wouldn't change a single thing. Not the death of my mom, not the death of my brothers. None of those things would I ever even think to change. I just learned to accept them and appreciate them, because in these moments, what God is truly doing is strengthening you. God don't skip steps. We do as men and women. We skip steps. We want to go from A to Z and not do B, C, D, E. We don't want to deal with all that. We just want to know where I'm at and give me the best part of it. God don't embarrass himself. He put me through all those things so that he knew when he blessed me, I wasn't going to embarrass myself. I wasn't going to throw it away. I wasn't going to cheat or do something that's untoward. When people tell you they're proud of you, that's one thing. My dad's wife told me, Rick, I've never seen anybody change the way you changed. That means a lot coming from her because she don't give out platitudes. But then she made me the executor of her will, and her son is in the house. Her actual son is in the house.
She trusts you.
She trusts me. And the proof is in the pudding. You can tell me I'm proud of you. But when you put your name on the paper and say, when I'm gone, I want you to do it. That's fact.
Yeah.
Now, to be trusted, how valuable is that to you?
It's the highest form of confirmation ever. If you look at me and say, hey, here's my son, make sure he gets where he needs to go, gets what he needs to get, and go where he needs to go, I trust you to do it. My life, I put it right in front of him. I take the bullet because I know in that scenario, he is glorified, not me. And so I take it as honor. You know, it is my pleasure. See, I'm a patriotic person. I didn't just become a patriotic person. When somebody's stuck on the side of the road, David, I stop. You know, I run to the ambulance, not from it. I've always been this person. There are people in society that are like that. We run to the trouble to go get it, fix it. I'm a leader. I was born to be a leader, by God designated. I believe that. And I've always been this way.
So with me being a country boy and you's a country boy too, meaning we from Mississippi, how hard was it knowing what had been instilled in you as to be the best you that you could be? Always respect people, respect your elders and everything. You may vow to yourself, to your family, to hold these things. All of a sudden you go off into the left field. How hard was that for you to say, hey, ain't nobody going to love me. Ain't nobody going to give me another chance. I done broke all ties. How can I mend them back together? How did you feel trying to prepare that and put those pieces back together?
Well, first of all, you're right in the sense that it was a constant battle. I could always hear my grandmother's voice. Mm-hmm. She was always in my ear. Even when I was doing it, you know, I would be getting high and she was like, Rick, what are you doing? So I would pray. I would get high and start praying, be like, God, please help me. Don't let this be my life. You know what I mean? Whenever I would use drugs with other people, I would take the tool that I used to get high and throw it away. Every night I was done forever. This is it. I quit every night.
Yeah, that's what I want to hear.
And then I'd pick it up again at some point the next day. And for me to put those pieces back together, it just took a spiritual maturity. You know, spiritual maturity is different from emotional maturity. Mm-hmm. It's different from physical maturity. You know, and so once I decided that I wanted to change my life, they gave me the answer to the test, and the answer to the test was prayer. I'd been praying all along, but I was treating God like he was Santa Claus or the Easter Bunny or, you know, some fictional character that I can just say, give me this or give me that. Now, when I pray to God, it is to glorify him and to say thank you. Because when I look back at my life, there are times when I shouldn't be here, David. I've bought drugs at 4 o'clock in the morning with a gun stuck to my head. And because I was so crazy and so lucid, they just decided to sell me the drug. Because at 4 o'clock in the morning, Leonard will tell you, even if I got drugs, I don't sell them. I just rob you.
Exactly.
Nobody sells you drugs at 4 o'clock in the morning. They take your money because you're already, you're gone.
You're gone, man.
You're gone. Just take it. Get out. You don't get no more, you know? And so I've gone through all that. There are so many times when I should not be here. And God just, you know, through, you know, getting sober, I'm able to look back, Leonard, and realize that he's been there the whole time, walking side by side, taking care of me, blessing me, and getting me through these moments.
So somewhere along that walk and on that journey, God walking beside you and all of this, right? Yet and still somewhere in that lifespan, have you ever tried to make a deal with God?
Yes, I have.
Share that with us.
Okay, so So I kind of talked about it a little bit in the abandoned house. It was cold, and and then there was one other time I was living with this guy, and I was paying him in alcohol to live there, and every night we'd get high and drunk, and he'd kick me out. And I just remember being there, and I just remember saying, God, help me. And I just promised him that if he would give me one more chance, right? Yeah. I said, God, would you please give me one more chance? And then I said, I won't let you down. But I spoke that as an addict.
Right.
And he knew it. And as quickly as I said that, and I said, this time, I won't let myself down. I said it just like that. I said, and this time, Lord, like, hold on. Lord, I won't let myself down this time. I said, I'm promising you, and I done promised you before, but this time right here, I'm doing it for me. And when I go to meetings and I work on my sobriety and I do everything I do it selfishly. Because the more I help you, David, the more I'm helped. The more I give, the more I receive. And I heard that 1,000 times.
Well, think of what Jesus Christ said. Whosoever shall seek to find his life shall lose it.
Yes.
But whosoever shall lose his life for my sake shall find it.
Absolutely. And I found it in the give. And I'm going to tell you something. There has to be a sufficient substitute because I'm still an addict. I'm addicted to, and you could tell because there are moments in this conversation where I get extremely,
reminiscing.
Yes. So I needed a sufficient substitute. And I was telling the guy this down at the mission 2 days ago. No, Monday. I said, hey, every day I come down here, I give people water. God bless me with the money, first of all, to be able to afford to do it. About $200 a month, $220 a month. Mm-hmm. I do it. I do it every day because I love them. And then I said, when I stand here and talk to you and tell you I stopped smoking crack, I stopped drinking, and I said, look at my skin. I got chicken bumps on my arm right now because I'm getting excited. I said, this is my high. This is my drug. Telling you that it's going to be okay is a drug. It replaces the euphoria of the high. Now I get high off of life. I heard somebody say that the first time. I'm high off of life. And I thought, man, what a stroke of mess that is. Like you can't tell me that, and I don't believe that, and save your trash. And I'm high off of life. I've never
What
been
I
higher.
hear you saying, it's not just life. You're always alive. You're high on love.
Yes. Love.
God's love and your love as it flows through you.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for clarifying.
It changes you.
It
and
does.
It changes them.
It does. It changes.
It's real.
And they see it instantly because they know, listen, what's spoken from the heart reaches the heart. Mm-hmm. We all know that. If you guys thought I was sitting here lying, this conversation probably would have ended a half hour, 45 minutes ago. But because I'm speaking from my heart, it's easy to be in the presence of that. And the same is true when we're talking to people and we're trying to help them change their life. They tell me, said, man, Rick, thank you, man. They don't know how to come at me because they know they're not ready yet. But they won't lie to me. You know how some people say, hey, yeah, I'm going to come down there. I'm gonna get in the treatment. They don't even bother doing that with me. They go, Rick, I'm not ready yet. But when I do get ready, I'm gonna talk to you. I promise you I will, because I know I can trust you.
And I can respect that. When a person comes to me like that, I can respect that.
Yes.
When you know you're not ready.
Don't lie to me.
Not only not lie to me, don't lie to yourself. This is one of the things I tell them when they come see me at the re-entry site. They'll be like, man, I'm still doing something that I shouldn't be doing. I'm still going into counter market, snatching a bottle of alcohol, running up out of there, this and that. Mm-hmm. And I know you have to support your addiction, Even as a drug dealer, you have an addiction.
To the money.
Yeah, you have an addiction to this money. And that's what my problem, because I didn't get high, I didn't smoke, I had never took a drink in my life, Rick.
Yeah.
Never.
I believe
But
that.
I was addicted to that money. If I wasn't out there selling drugs, man, something was missing. If I ran out of drugs, I don't care how far down that highway I gotta go get them. I'm going to get them. One time, man, real life story. And this is my prosecutor right here beside me, but I'm going to say this. One time, I went to Chicago, Rick. I had ran out of drugs. My brother was gone. They didn't have no drug neither.
Mm-hmm.
I went to Chicago. I was so tired, so beat, Rick, till I missed a turn. When I missed a turn, there was 2 cops sitting on the side of the road. Rick, believe it or not, I stopped and asked them to show me how to get back to I-55 South. But with me, I had a key and a half of cocaine. I asked the police didn't ask me nothing about search my car, nothing. Oh, sir, just follow me. Turn the light on and took me on out, man.
You know, it's funny you say that.
For real.
It's funny you say that because I can remember one time I was taking a car that wasn't mine, tow truck, and and I had to have the tow truck pull out into the street. Well, of course, now I'm directing traffic. I got these guys stopped on this side, and the cop pulls up on this side. I say, hold on a second, and I send them by, and I said, wait a second. I get the tow truck pull out. I'm directing traffic, and the cop is watching me larceniously relieve these people of a car that was because the day before I went over, jacked it up, and cut the converter off of it. And the next day I went back and got it. But people had moved out. The car was just sitting there. And David, that's how I justified it. I would always try to find a car that it was totally abandoned.
Abandoned.
Yes. I loved abandoned cars because I could say to myself, well, I'm cleaning up the community and I'm putting a few dollars in my pocket. I'm getting rid of these homes for varmint and different things like that. And so I could justify it. So even in my criminality, I had to justify it in my heart because grandma was beating me over the head every time I did anything.
You were living a lie,
I was living a lie.
and now it's true. You're honest, and it feels different, and there's different fruits of it.
Yes.
God will not be mocked. You reap
Nope.
what you sow. What you
Yes.
sow.
Yes.
And now you're sowing different seeds.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, Mr. Joyner, you mentioned something about you, and you didn't use drugs, but you were addicted to selling drugs.
Very much.
One of my former defendants, I've told you about this. One of my former defendants who was convicted of selling drugs told me, and he repeated it in court, selling drugs is as addictive as using drugs.
Yes.
And I asked
very
him, what do
much.
you mean by that? And as he explained it, I won't take the time to give you his whole explanation. What it boiled down to, it was not being addicted to the money. It was the juice.
Yeah, the power. People look up to you.
Oh, that come with it.
And it convinced me that the most fundamental of all human needs is respect.
Yes.
Is respect.
Yes.
And some people, if they can't be respected, they turn to what I call Satan's counterfeit, which is fear.
Yeah.
If you're not going to respect me, fear me.
Yeah.
But that doesn't last long either because it is a counterfeit.
Yeah.
Ultimately, what you're describing is something that you acquired, that you gained. 2 things: respect, self-respect, and the trust of others.
Absolutely.
And that power, and then the love of God flowing through you, that power, that fruit of the seeds that you planted is more powerful than the cocaine, the alcohol,
Absolutely.
the addiction.
It's the return of my dignity. I can remember going in the gas station, Fast Track Laundromat one time. I went over there and the guy said, hey, man, you can't take no shower in this sink in here. He knew I was living in an abandoned house on 8th Street. But just the idea that, I needed a place to, because I went in there once before, and I had to get cleaned up. You know what I mean? And so it's the return of my dignity. And no one knows that that absolute value of that. When you feel like people aren't judging you on your appearance anymore, like you get the benefit of the doubt. Here's a perfect example. I live on the west of Springfield. I was on Old Jacksonville Road. A white lady had broken down. Her battery went dead on her car. She was outside looking under the hood, a lady in distress. I pull up in my bright red 2018 Chevy Silverado, and I roll down the window. I said, "Would you like a ride to get a battery for your vehicle?" She said, "Okay," and jumped in. She didn't know me from Adam. And I remember while she was getting in the truck, this thought came over me. I said, I remember a time when she would have ran from me.
Mm-hmm.
Ran. Call the cops if I stopped. Because I lived so incredulously. I would have struck fear on sight from her. But all the trappings of a good life were present, and she trusted me. She gave me the benefit of the doubt. David, I don't know if you know what that feels like, but as a black man, to be given the benefit of the doubt is the highest form of flattery in America a black man can achieve. If you don't look at me and think, if you say, "Hi, how are you?" then I know the difference. He knows the difference.
Yes.
We know the difference,
Yes.
David. When you look at me and I could tell you didn't judge me, I feel good inside.
Yes.
It's indescribable. We walk away feeling different. And as a homeless black man, it's upfront, undeniable. It's red alert time. You know, when people look at you and you're a suspect, right? You're a suspect. If something happened, they're like, "Hey, I saw a guy. He might have did it. He's pointing at you." But when a person looks at you and say, "Sure, give me a ride, thanks," because the first thing she saw was my truck. She says, "No criminal drives a truck like that." Right? I got the benefit of the doubt. I was clean clothed. I was speaking well. She trusted me. And she gave me her phone number and wanted to help me with my literacy organization afterwards. I took her back to her house. I had never seen her before in my life. Never seen her since.
Okay, let's shift into that to close this off. We're going to have
Sure.
to. We're going to have to. This conversation could go on for a long time.
Yes, very much.
Let's
so.
kind of bring it to a close here.
Okay.
You mentioned your literacy organization. Tell us about that.
Well, my wife, Donna Brown, has a literacy organization. It's called iMagination. We are a 501c3 in good standing in the state of Illinois. We believe in literacy. We believe that literacy is a vehicle that gets people from where they're at to where they want to be in life. Our organization has purchased 4 plots of property on the corner of 16th and Spruce, right adjacent to Zion Missionary Baptist Church. Leonard provided food for one of our functions last year, and what we are currently doing right now, we're in Matheny Elementary School. We are teaching kids who are basically in a crisis mode. I can sit here and tell you some numbers, but Matheny is the lowest functioning middle school in probably the entire state of Illinois. And for sure in District 186, and District 186 is on the low end of all the numbers for its literacy in the state of Illinois. And the kids over there are struggling with literacy. The kids that are in 3rd grade right now are the COVID kids, and they cannot read. And what we're doing right now is we're in a one-to-one setting with these children. My wife has gone back to school to get the dyslexia certification over at the Dyslexia Institute on Rickard Road. You know, when you think you want to teach a kid how to read and you sit down in front of them, you find out that they need everything from glasses. They're on the autism spectrum. They have dyslexia, and some of them are just afraid. Or, you know, they've been made fun of. Their home life is in a shambles, and everything is occurring. What we really want is somebody to see what we're doing and decide that they want to be a partner with us in this effort to help us build a building on those 4 plots of property at the corner of 16th and Spruce. If you guys know how to help us raise money and get it from Dick Durbin or whoever, or the state, help us. Because we're going to teach kids how to read. And when we teach these kids how to read, every good number goes up and every bad number goes down. I don't have to tell you this, David. But when kids can read, they're less likely to bust the windows out of your house and steal from you. And they're less likely to walk around with their pants down and be disrespectful. They're more likely to go to college. Property value goes up. Police response goes down. Every good thing that could happen happens. We become a target for corporate headquarters for businesses because our crime numbers are down and our education rate is up. The dropout rate goes down. The graduation rate goes up. These kids because listen, in the end, we're going to drive down the street with these kids. They're going to have driver's license, and we're going to have to pass by them on the road. We're going to be in the grocery stores with them. We're going to be, they're going to have this community at some point, and we're going to turn it over to people who are low functioning if we don't invest in them now. So I say, help our imagination raise money to build a building to teach these kids who are simply in crisis mode. You can go to our Facebook page, Our Imagination, and you can also reach out to my wife, Donna Brown, and if David is so kind, we can leave a link to our organization on the YouTube page.
We shall.
As we move forward. But it's been an absolute honor and a privilege to sit down with you guys and talk. Like I said, we can talk forever. And if you want me to come back and talk more directly, or if you would like to talk to my wife about our literacy organization, because I think we're changing lives and making a difference in this community.
Changing lives through literacy. Rickey Brown, it's been our privilege having you with us.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Now, let's close on one thing. Tell us again your sobriety date.
My sobriety date is January 18th, 2013. I have, I have a counter that tells me how many days I've been sober. And so as it stands right now, I have 11 years, 2 months, and 8 days, or 4,085 days of continuous sobriety. I've never had an occasion to go back out or do anything other than stay sober since that date.
Congratulations, my brother.
Thank you.
And respect.
Yes, respect.
Please help spread Rickey's message to others by hitting the like button if you're watching on YouTube, and share the link on your social media. To make sure you get notifications of future episodes, please subscribe or follow the program. It all helps build the impact. This is Justice Voices, stories that need to be told, voices that need to be heard about justice, healing, and safer communities. This episode is brought to you with support from a Healing Illinois grant, administered by the Field Foundation of Illinois and United Way of Central Illinois.